three moments of Game 2 of the NLCS, because number 3 moment for me is that Francisco Lindor home run to start off the game and say, we're the Mets and we get punched in the mouth, we come back and we punch back.
That home run came on the 8th pitch of that at-bat, and Francisco had fouled off the previous 4 pitches against Ryan Brazier.
Number 2 moment, Phil Maton, to get out of the 6th inning, puts the ball into another double play predicament.
He's a guy that the pitch shapes that he brings to the table, they're not like a lot of other guys in their pitch shapes. He's introduced a cutter recently that doesn't move like a lot of other cutters. In that at-bat, he showed Kike 4 pitches, a curveball, some cutters, and a sweeper as well.
Let's talk about that number 1 moment. Marquee playoffs, Mark Vientos goes yard for his first grand slam of his career, and he does it in the postseason, and he does it after Francisco Lindor gets intentionally walked to get to him. Mark Vientos says in the press conference after the game that he took that personally.
This at-bat was about as legendary as at-bats come, especially in that situation after the intentional walk. Mets up 2-0, but possibly about to strand some base runners, and they did that throughout the game, so it was important, now that we know how the game went, for them not to.
We said the sun was going to shine another day, and it is. Welcome to Meet at the Apple. I'm Vito Calisi. You can follow me on Twitter at Vito F. Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron. You can follow him at JMB9191. And my intros are at a much different level when I'm in a good mood because of the Mets.
Vito, good evening, good morning to everybody out there. It is a happy recap here on Meet at the Apple as the Mets, they take care of business. They win Game 2, and I feel as if you had to pick the order, you're going to split the first 2 games, right? Would you rather win the first, lose the second, or lose the first, win the second, get on the plane, come home, enjoy your off day, vibes good, Game 3 right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it, 8 Eastern on Wednesday night. I wouldn't have it any other way. And the Mets played an exhilarating game. Probably shouldn't have been as exhilarating as it was, quite honestly, but they provided us with a lot of moments, of course, none bigger than Mark Vientos, both hitting a grand slam, the Mets second in their last 3 postseason games, and then also providing an incredible quote where he basically became the MJ meme and told us all that he took personally Dave Roberts and the Dodgers choosing to pitch around Francisco Lindor with 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs and go after Mark Vientos instead. And boy, did Mark Vientos make the Dodgers pay for that. And Vito, I have a feeling we might never see anybody intentionally pitch around the batter in front of Mark Vientos to get to Mark Vientos ever again after what Mark Vientos did on Monday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're watching that game live as a Mets fan. You're just thinking, we've watched this guy come up in big moments in the postseason. So to see him put into that situation, you're thinking, I was confused. But let's just get into one thing. I mean, the first inning, we said yesterday on the podcast, math told you the Dodgers consecutive innings of no runs allowed. We told you that likely wasn't going to hold up. I mean, we've said before, expect like things like when you say expecting batting average, when the Mets are hitting a lot of hard hit balls right into guys, at some point that dam's going to break. I didn't expect the dam to break on the first at bat of the game from Francisco Lindor. And this is the perfect time to get in the top 3 moments of Game 2 of the NLCS, because number 3 moment for me is that Francisco Lindor home run to start off the game and say, we're the Mets and we get punched in the mouth, we come back and we punch back.
It was an incredible at-bat by Francisco. I mean, home run notwithstanding, and I'm not trying to minimize the isolated moment, but that home run came on the 8th pitch of that at-bat, and Francisco had fouled off the previous 4 pitches against Ryan Brazier. So Brazier went slider, he went 4-seam fastball, he went slider, he went 4-seam fastball. Brazier trying to pull the string, change the eye level, change the speed on Lindor. Lindor fouled off all 4 of those pitches. Then Brazier comes in with a cutter that really didn't do a whole lot. And Francisco Lindor, once again, squares up a baseball. Once again, does what a captain does, what a leader does, what an MVP caliber player does. He puts a swing on a ball, gives the Mets a 1-0 lead. And like Andy Martino said on Twitter tonight, it gave the feeling of the inevitability of the Mets once again. Like you mentioned, 33 straight innings for the Dodgers, not allowing a run. The Mets record only 3 hits in Game 1. Game 1 was a laugher, let's be honest about it. for Francisco Lindor and the Mets to come out swinging the way that they did, it was big. And the Mets put good swings on Brazier in the first inning. They didn't get more than that one run, but boy, oh boy, did that set the tone. Then Sean Manaea goes out there, flips a 0, strikes out Shohei Ohtani to start the game, which to me is equally as important almost. Strikes out Mookie Betts. I think walks Teoscar Hernandez, and then gets Freddie Freeman on the first pitch to end that first inning. So almost equally as important, but man, what a moment for Lindor, who just continues to provide those OMG moments that this Mets team has given us seemingly all season.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, a lot of Mets fans were in their feelings after yesterday. I got some texts from friends. I had one friend say they're probably going to get swept. I've been debating shaving my beard and cutting my hair because it's been bothering me. I had another friend reach out to me and say, you might as well just go cut your hair right now. And I'm here to tell you, this hair is not getting cut anytime soon. This beard, this scraggly beard is not going anywhere anytime soon.
That's where you made
the Mets are hot.
That's where you made a mistake. I shaved today.
What the hell? Oh, because the loss?
I'm going to do a little Rizzler here.
You are right.
I shaved today.
You are allowed to shave on the loss. You're right.
I said to myself, this is the time. I needed a shave. I didn't want to do it before game 1. Mets drop game 1. That's like the door opening where I can do it, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to change the karma. So I did it, and what do you know? Mets take game 2. You should have went straight to the barber today after you got out of work. So now you have no choice but to keep it. And I know you've been wanting to shave and get a haircut for a while. Now you're stuck. So that's on you. I like to take a little credit for this. No, I'm kidding. I don't think me shaving had much to do with it, but I did get my shaven, and now I'm looking about 7 years younger, so I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen clean shave John in a minute. This is a reminder of the old days.
Well, it's been a busy 10 days, and it's about to get a whole lot busier once again. So I needed a little recharge. I needed a little cleanup on the facial hair. So glad I did it. Glad it worked out for the Mets. Vito, what's number 2?
All right, number 2 moment. Phil Maton comes in, gets into a bit of a jam. And, you know, I want to also give some credit to Phil Maton here, because I think if you look at Phil Maton's appearance, just very straightforward, very on paper, you might think it was he did a lot worse than he should get credit for. When in reality, Phil Maton pitched pretty well. He put the ball into play. There was just some bad infield luck on that outing. And, you know, a lot of Mets fans have been on Twitter kind of downplaying Phil Maton's importance. And I think this was actually an outing that shows you how valuable he is, because one of the Mets' strengths this year has been getting that ground ball. That's what we talk about with David Peterson. It's a bad day to be a worm. Phil Maton went out there. He did his job. I mean, we saw in that inning, Sean Manaea left because of something that should have probably been a double play. Definitely would have been 1 out. Then you see Phil Maton get one up the first baseline a little bit right past Pete Alonso. Freddie Freeman might have been kind of setting up a screen for him, might have made it a little bit harder for him to catch. But Phil Maton did his job, and I do wish Mets fans would give him credit for that. But Phil Maton, to get out of the 6th inning, puts the ball into another double play predicament. It's not Mets-Dodgers in a playoff series if there's not a tricky slide at second base. We see Max Muncy slide into Jose Iglesias, kind of give him a little elbow if you notice on it. Messes up the throw a little, but Pete Alonso was able to keep that foot on the bag. I know Mets fans, even though it looked like it was a clear out, you're sitting there like, oh my God, is this going to get turned over? Is this going to get turned over? But man, I let out such a scream on that double play, John.
Yeah, I mean, as far as win probability goes, the only play in this game that had a higher swing and win probability was the one that we're going to talk about at number 1. I'm sure you guys can figure out what that play was. But Phil Maton, look, he's a guy that the pitch shapes that he brings to the table, they're not like a lot of other guys in their pitch shapes. He's introduced a cutter recently that doesn't move like a lot of other cutters. And that at bat, he showed Kike 4 pitches, a curveball, some cutters, and a sweeper as well. He has generated a lot more ground balls this year than he did the past 3 years. The last time he had a ground ball rate where it was this year was back in 2020. So Phil Maton generated a lot more ground balls, and I think that Carlos Mendoza put him in that game hoping for him and one of those oddly shaped pitches that a lot of guys just aren't used to seeing to find maybe the bottom of a barrel and drive one into the ground. Like you mentioned, there were some miscues for the Mets in this inning. I mean, first of all, Sean Manaea walks the first 2 guys, and you obviously hate to see that. You're up 5 runs. You don't want to put guys on base. You don't want to issue free passes because this Dodger lineup is loaded, and we know that things can change in the postseason, just in baseball in general, with one swing of the bat. Then you had the weird play at second base where I think Jose Iglesias took a quick peek up. It was Freddie Freeman running. We know Freddie is not moving very well with the ankle injury he has. If he fields the ball cleanly, that might be a double play. But instead, a very rare miscue by one of the most sure-handed players in all of baseball on the infield. And then, like you mentioned, the ball hit towards Pete Alonso by that damn Tommy Edman. I hate Tommy Edman. I'm going to be saying this all series. Phil Maton comes in, and hey, credit to Mark Vientos, because Mark did not field that ball very cleanly, but he stayed with it, made a strong throw to second, put it in a spot where Jose Iglesias could make a quick turn. And of course, Pete Alonso showing the footwork that Keith Hernandez was so proud of, I'm sure, watching at that very moment. What a huge moment, because if the Mets don't turn two there and the Dodgers score another run, then it's 6-4. And then the rest of that game, until the Mets added an insurance run, which they eventually did, but until that moment, that meant anytime the Dodgers got a singular runner on base, whether it's by a hit, walk, catcher's interference, error, you name it, I'm not going to run through all of them. That meant the tying run was coming to the plate. And for the Dodgers to score only 2 runs when down 5 in a bases loaded, no out situation, probably a little bit deflating, especially when you send the Dodger version of Mr. October, Kike Hernandez, to the plate. He hits the ball hard, but right at Vientos, Maton gets the ground ball he needed, and the Mets get out of that inning, and they can take a breath, and eventually they tack on that extra run. That was a massive moment by the Mets defense to once again, and we've talked about this all season, Vito, turn one pitch into 2 outs. And boy, did they need it in that situation, and they got it.
In that moment, I was actually thinking about being the fan on the other side of this. And in the sense of like this game, this was one of the most tense games I remember watching in a long time, which is crazy because, and I tweeted this, the Mets had a healthy lead from pretty early on, but I never felt totally comfortable. And I was at a full-time tension level throughout the whole day. And then like when this moment happens, I'm thinking about the Dodger fan watching this at home who is also tense and is just thinking, how does my team not score? How does my team not take more advantage of this? While we're on the other side being like, the Mets left how many base runners on today? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the problem? And then, like, you forget that, like, there's this whole other side where somebody else is miserable because the Mets got out of this situation. And it just reminds you about, like, there's millions of people on the other side of every play.
It reminds you of being a New York Jets fan, as the Buffalo Bills just converted on 3rd and 4 to ice another pathetic loss by Gang Green. But sorry, I had to interject that. I couldn't help it. I'm not even mad, honestly. Right now, especially, we're focusing on Mets playoff baseball. This is so irrelevant.
What's there to be? I texted. We're in a group chat with me, you, and Brendan, and we're all Mets Jets fans. And like Brendan said, time to go watch the Jets. And I honestly was like, after the Mets game I just watched, I can't sit there and pretend to have like interest in this Jets game today. Like I couldn't emotionally invest anything into anything else today after what I watched. But perfect time. Let's talk about that number one moment. We kind of talked about it before because it was so obvious. There's no other choice. Marquee playoffs. Mark Vientos goes yard for his first grand slam of his career, and he does it in the postseason, and he does it after Francisco Lindor gets intentionally walked to get to him. Mark Vientos says in the press conference after the game that he took that personally, and boy, oh boy, is this podcast happy to see Mark Vientos have big moments.
This at bat was about as legendary as at bats come, especially in that situation after the intentional walk. Mets up 2-0, but possibly about to strand some base runners, and they did that throughout the game. So it was important, now that we know how the game went, for them not to. And Mark Vientos against Landon Knack. Mark saw 9 pitches in this plate appearance. 7 of them were breaking balls. Knack continued to try to get Vientos to go out of the strike zone, down and away. He hung a couple of them. Mark fouled off some tough pitches. There was one that Max Muncy looked like he might have had a play on, just got out of play. After the first 3-2 slider that Mark yanked down the third base line, Landon Knack gave in. Landon Knack got tired of Mark Vientos fouling off the slider, the breaking pitch. He also it seemed like, didn't trust that he could put that pitch on a dot where he needed to freeze Vientos for a possible called third strike. So Landon Knack, who throws hard, The man throws 96, 97. I don't throw 96, 97. You don't throw 96, 97. He trusted in that four-seamer. You know, he trusted in old number one. And it was a battle of power against power. And he put it where he shouldn't have put it. And Mark Vientos was not fooled. And on pitch number 9, Mark Vientos deposited the third grand slam in the postseason history of the New York Mets. And Vito, I know there are a lot of statistics and notes last night about teams that win a playoff game by 9+ runs. They don't usually fare well in a series. Well, before this, the only players in Mets history to hit a grand slam were Francisco Lindor in Game 4 of the 2024 NLDS. We know that one quite well. Mets won that series. The other one, Edgardo Alfonso, Game 1, 1999 NLDS against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Mets won that series. This was a massive hit for the Mets to take a 6-0 lead after what happened last night and just do exactly back to the Dodgers, take a huge lead, jump all over them. You know the Dodgers were already in their bullpen, put the seed of doubt in the Dodgers' heads. Mark Vientos, I mean, you know that I've been a big fan of Mark Vientos going back before he became a major leaguer. And I think a lot of people that watched him in low A, high A, double A, triple A, I mean, we talked about him ad nauseum on Future of Flushing last year. It seemed like every other night he was hitting a home run. That power by a right-handed hitter to straightaway center field, to right field, it does not grow on trees. And the swing he put on that ball was reminiscent of a couple other home runs he hit this year. The one that came to mind, August 21st, the Jesse Winker walk-off game. We've talked about this. Mark Vientos almost had the deciding blow in that game. He had a big home run against Craig Kimbrell. The Mets gave a run back to the Orioles with some shoddy umpiring, but it was very similar. You look at the swing, the pitch location, and the batted ball location, very similar. Mark Vientos can beat you to all fields, and he did just that. What a moment. Don't disrespect the boy. Like I said, I think that's the last time we ever see anybody opt to pitch to Mark Vientos with the bases loaded.
And one of my favorite things about this win, dude, is like you said, the Mets, this was a bullpen start for the Dodgers. The Mets got to the Dodgers bullpen. And while we didn't see all of their high leverages, guys, what we saw in the Philly series was that when Mets players got looks against Phillies bullpen guys, it really made a difference later on in the series. I mean, all of our big runs were off of the Phillies bullpen in that series. That's where the wins came from. So if you can get to a team's bullpen and get more looks at guys, it really bodes well what's going to be coming up for the rest of the series. Because like you said, John, I mean, look, this thing is now guaranteed to at least go 5. And it feels like this is going to be an all-time classic, the way that these two games have shaped up so far. And I just want to give some credit to some other people in this game. One majorly being Ryan Stanek. Ryan Stanek has proven to be one of the most dependable guys. Probably, I would say he's in that circle of trust. You saw the spot he got. He got the second biggest spot of the game today. It looks like Mendy's main guys right now are obviously Edwin Diaz at the top. And then it looks like Ryan Stanek, Reed Garrett, who worked his way back in there, and Phil Maton are the guys that you're going to be seeing getting a lot of work in this NLCS.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen did a great job, combined for 4 scoreless today. But how about the bottom of the Mets lineup? And I want to talk about what the Dodger lineup did and break it down. But that second inning rally starts with a Starling Marte single. Marte had 3 hits on Monday afternoon. And then Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker reached base safely 3 times, a hit and a couple of walks. Jesse Winker has been getting on base. That's what he did all year. Before he came over in the trade, he had the 7th highest on-base percentage in the National League. Jose Iglesias picked up a hit. Tyrone Taylor, after Iglesias made an out with first and second no outs, Tyrone Taylor laces a double. And you know you're at least getting out of that inning with 1 run, and you have hung a run on the Dodgers in each of the first 2 innings of that game. So that was massive by the Mets, bottom of the order, to do what they did all day long. I mean, Vito, the Mets had at least 1 base runner in every single inning in this ball game. I saw the pictures of the traffic at Dodger Stadium after Sunday night's victory. It looked like it wasn't much fun to get out of there. The Mets could have made this game, this traffic pattern, a lot easier today because they had a chance to put up 15 runs, dare I say. Now, they didn't. They left a lot of guys on base. You don't have to see that. You want to see some guys come through, and you guys just wait till that Francisco Alvarez home run barrage comes because it's going to come. But the Mets, the offensive approach and the offensive output was the polar opposite of a sleepy Sunday night performance. Now, on the opposite side of the equation, you look at the box score today on the Dodger side of things. Mets pitchers held 1 through 5 in the LA lineup. I'm talking Ohtani, Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, and Will Smith. Those 5 guys combined to go 0 for 19 with 9 strikeouts in this ball game. And if you want to look at the difference between what the Mets did well and what the Dodgers didn't do well, 1 and 2 in the Mets lineup. I know I just talked about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but 1 and 2, they both homered. They combined to drive in 5 runs. 1 through 5 in LA's order did absolutely nothing. And that is a testament to a guy who we haven't really spoken enough about on this episode, Sean Manaea, who once again was brilliant for the Mets, who once again continues to show why he is the ace of this staff. He has become the ace of this staff. I don't care that he wasn't dubbed the ace when this team was in Port St. Lucie during pitchers and catchers. Another brilliant outing by Sean Manaea, making many of those huge names I just mentioned, all-star caliber players, look silly with some of the swings. Sean was that dominant at points in this start on Monday.
Yeah, and we said this last night. Look, some people might have been confused or might have wanted to see Sean Manaea start that game 1 instead of Kodai Senga, but Mets didn't really put up any numbers yesterday. Imagine the reverse situation right now. Imagine a situation yesterday where the Mets lose a crushing game 1-0 because Sean Manaea gave up a single run and the Mets couldn't get up anything against Jack Flaherty. But instead, Sean Manaea goes up today, pretty much puts the team in a position to win. And now Sean Manaea is set up to come back later, and you have a little bit more flexibility with what can happen in game 5. Will the Mets go with Kodai Senga again? Will it be David Peterson? You have some more flexibility there, which I kind of like to see at this point. It was something I wasn't the biggest fan of before the game, but once things fell the way they did after the series, you just got to say Mendy did it again, and he made the right decisions. It seems like even in times when you think that wrong button is being hit, things always come up Carlos Mendoza. And John, you brought up the bottom of the order. You brought up Tyrone Taylor. I also want to bring up Tyrone Taylor was 2 feet from driving in a handful of runs again because he was inches off the line. And Brandon Nimmo, although they didn't hit the ground, Brandon Nimmo was lacing shots to the outfield. Looked like he could have. It's kind of like Brandon Nimmo at the beginning of the season where he was hitting those balls that he was just hitting to the worst possible spot he could. Just did that again today. So, I just don't think there's any way to describe this other than I feel great with the Mets coming back. And then we didn't even talk about Edwin Diaz, dude. Edwin Diaz comes out, and I can't hearing what Edwin Diaz's biggest problem is the funniest thing in the world to me because it's so unbelievable every time you hear this, that Edwin Diaz's biggest problem is that he somehow forgets that he's great. He somehow forgets he's Edwin Diaz. And then everybody else is like, hey, Edwin, remember, you could throw like 99, 100. Why don't you just do that? And he goes, oh, yeah, I can do that. And then he like snaps on and just does it. Look, might have put 2 guys on to start, but he got out of that without giving up a run and really just made some guys look silly out there, specifically their Mr. October.
Yeah, I mean, he gets Betts and Freeman to end the game. So, that's pretty good company right there. Look, with Edwin, he did it in game 4, puts a couple guys on, shuts the door, threw a lot of pitches once again on Monday. This is an off day the Mets and Dodgers both really, really need, will really, really enjoy as we go to a huge game 3. I don't know the numbers right now, but I'm sure the winner of game 3 in a 1-1 series and a best of 7 series, you put yourself in the driver's seat by taking that game 3. And the Mets are going to send the guy that they started the postseason with, Luis Severino, to the mound in front of a raucous Citi Field crowd. The Dodgers are going to send Walker Buehler, and Walker Buehler struggled in his postseason debut. Buehler really had a tough time against the Padres, allowing 6 runs, 7 hits in 5 innings, a home run, left the game slamming his glove. So Mets fans, if you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night or maybe Wednesday morning, I want you guys to make life, if you're going to be at Citi Field, maybe if you're not going to be at Citi Field, maybe if you see him in the street, be a human, be,
John,
courteous.
Relax, John.
I'm not saying let's, get too crazy, but let's make life tough on Walker Buehler. I can go for a little Buehler.
Have you seen that movie?
Let's get Buehler to a day off, if you know what I'm saying. Have I seen that movie? Absolutely not.
You've not seen Ferris Bueller? That one feels crazy. But John, during the broadcast, I found this very interesting. Throughout the game, you did not hear the broadcast talk very much about the atmosphere at Dodger Stadium. You did hear them say a few times, we got over 50,000 people here. because Dodger Stadium is the biggest baseball stadium we have right now. It's a mammoth
They
because it
don't
was
make it
built
like
in.
that anymore. They don't make it.
No,
like
they
that.
don't. It was a multi-purpose stadium. It was built for football. It was built for baseball. Shea Stadium was the exact same thing. Old Yankee Stadium was also quite big, even though that was not that kind of stadium. But my point is, it's a big place. But one thing the broadcast kept going back to over and over again, and I've watched a lot of playoff games this year, they kept bringing up how crazy Citi Field was going to be on Wednesday and how intimidating it would be for the Dodgers and how tough it would be to deal with. And we're talking about a place that was the 0-5, barely anybody in the ballpark stadium early in the year, that has now become a place that, let's be honest, Fox is using to sell ratings of saying, look, this game is good right now, but wait till we show you what you have Wednesday when Mets fans are going absolutely crazy and we make 44,000 sound like 56,000.
Well, when Fox came on the air, I know it was a one local start. That was kind of a tough break for the Dodgers. One local is not what you want for a playoff game. I know both teams, all the players, they had to deal with the same waking up after a night game the night before, 4 hours earlier. I get that. There's no advantage there. But as far as your home field advantage goes, and every guy that you and I have spoken to has told us that stuff matters. Having that raucous crowd behind you, it truly does matter. There were a lot of empty seats at first pitch at Dodger Stadium. And I know that, they're known for showing up late and leaving early, whatever. And look, trust me, I know that Dodger fans are great fans. They travel well. There's probably going to be a lot of Dodger blue at Citi Field, whatever. It's a historic franchise. We know that.
We're orange.
Dodger fans, not taking a shot at anybody. But a 1 p.m. game, it kind of sucks the life out of you. Like, I'm going to talk hockey here, when TV forces my favorite hockey team to play like a noon playoff game start. Who is going crazy? Who is 7 tequila seltzers in at noon? Absolutely nobody. Well, maybe some people, but most people are not.
No.
Now, 7 p.m.,
sure.
Different story. Noon or 1 o'clock in this instance, come on. So I just felt like the energy is naturally sapped a little bit when you're starting at one local time. And for the Dodgers, it's a tough break. Obviously, TV wanted the Yankees to have the night game. By the way, I know a lot of people were talking before the Yankees and Mets both advanced out of the LDS. Who's going to get the night game? Is going to be Ohtani against New York, or will be Soto and Judge against Cleveland, which isn't as sexy necessarily, but it's Soto and Judge. And MLB did the right thing. They split it up because tomorrow the Yankees are the standalone game, and then they go on the road and the Mets come home and they're the standalone game. And then Thursday they play simultaneously, and the Mets are the night game against the Dodgers, and the Yankees and Guardians, they'll be playing at 5 o'clock. And then on Friday, they flipped it. So they split it up. They made it fair. I feel like they probably couldn't really pick one because both are enticing. Obviously, the 27-time World Series champions. Who doesn't love that? By the way, that series is a joke. That's a joke. That series is over. That series is over. That series never even started. Are you kidding me?
I'm not going to say stuff like that. I mean, I comment on the Mets.
Okay, well, I'm commenting on the Yankees and the Guardians. And I can give you a breakdown of the Rangers and Red Wings from Monday night if you need me to. That'll be
what vantage point?
What do you mean, what vantage point?
Like, what view can you give of the Rangers game? Like,
as a spectator, as a big Alexi Lafreniere fan, that vantage point. But anyway, that series is over. But MLB did right by both teams. So it was fair the way they did it. They are getting the best of both worlds.
Also, wait, John, question. If you had to choose a night game, wouldn't you choose the Thursday night game over the Friday? Because Friday, everybody's working from home on Fridays anyway.
Yeah, Friday's kind of the third weekend day anyway. No, you're right. And we saw the Mets fans show up in a huge way with 2 5 o'clock games against the Phillies. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. I am so excited for Wednesday night. Luis Severino on the bump. You know what jersey Luis prefers to pitch in, by the way.
I do.
If he makes that choice, and I'm not talking to City Connects, if he makes that choice, oh, baby, because the numbers bear it out. When the Mets have their black threads on, woo-wee, they were incredible on Friday nights at Citi Field this year. Balls were flying out of the park. You know we got the pyro on lock at Citi Field. Oh, man. And Vito, I was outside right before we started. Dude, it's chilly outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's cold. It's like 35 in Central Jersey right now.
I know. Dude, I can't wait. It brings me back those memories of 2015, wearing like 4 different coats, wearing gloves, I had to buy, I remember I had to buy a Mets winter hat at the game because I was not prepared to have a winter hat. I was so used to wearing snapbacks and fitteds. But dude, I can't wait for Wednesday night. I can't wait to be at the ballpark today. Like, we're recording this Monday night. I can't wait to be at the ballpark on Tuesday, just getting stuff done, preparing for this series. And a few more things we want to talk about before we get out of here. Sevy on his way. Sevy left early. Sevy headed to New York before the rest of the team to get some rest to prepare for this series. And Sevy threw on the 59 on his face for Sean Manaea at the facility and wore it out of Dodger Stadium, out of the hotel to head to Citi Field, and wore it on the flight, I believe that we were told. And that brought up something that I want to ask Sean, and I want to see if he would be down to start it. And I want to get your opinion on this, John. Do you think after the starter pitcher is done for the day, should he throw on the reliever that follows him's number?
I think the only problem with that is then your face basically becomes a whiteboard, and it can get
No,
very
just the guy
messy
that follows you. Just the guy that follows you.
Oh, just the guy that follows you. We're not erasing and then reapplying, because that would be
Yeah.
that would be crazy town.
No, just you wear like kind of like a passing the baton. Like, you're like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
done.
I'm down with
I'm
that.
gonna,
That's cool.
right?
That's fun.
I'm going to suggest that to Sean, because now it's not a pitch day, so I can say that to him. Even though if it was a pitch day, I probably could say that to him because that's just the kind of guy Sean Manaea is. He argues with John about Indiana seconds before he goes to face Kyle Schwarber.
I didn't start it. I also noticed Drew Smith was involved in the OMG sign, which, David Peterson had just told us that Drew Smith is the Notre Dame out in the bullpen calling home runs. Next thing we know, and we knew when we saw the news that Sevy was getting on the plane with number 59 on his face, going to LAX to come back to New York ahead of the team, get ready for his big Game 3 start, that someone was going to have to be on OMG sign duty. And a lot of people wondered who was going to be. Well, we got our answer. Drew Smith migrated from the bullpen to the dugout. So perhaps Drew was calling some home runs from the dugout from a different vantage point. But it's great to see that Drew is around and making an impact. I mean, you remember when Francisco Lindor was sidelined by the back injury, which also feels like months ago because of all the incredible moments and damage he's done since he's returned. But Francisco had the yellow card. He was helping with defensive positioning. He was, seeing what he could find in pitchers and share wisdom with his teammates that were in the lineup. This is just such a fun, welcoming, warm group that truly cares about each other so much. And of course, it sucks what happened to Drew. I mean, you saw the emotions when the news came out and he spoke with the media, but awesome to see that he is in the middle of it. He is enjoying it. And I mean, just, Monday was just another notch in the ride. And I can't wait to see you. And I can't wait to see 44,000 of our closest friends at Citi Field on Wednesday. Remember, guys, Bueller. Them Bandy boys, they're not ready for what's about to happen at Citi Field on Wednesday.
And John, you said Drew Smith was the Nostradamus. We have another Nostradamus, Dogstradamus, Corgi-stradamus, because
Yes.
The Corgi is right so far. The Corgi said Dodgers take game 1, Mets take game 2. And the Corgi did predict a Mets game 3 victory.
The Corgi, which, by the way, I believe it's Corgi. I was corrected. So thank you to everyone that reached out and told me it's a hard G. Corgi.
Wait, what did I text you today? What did I text you this morning?
I woke up. I was kind of in a haze. What did you text me?
I was on my way to the gym this morning. I crossed the street, and what do I like?
Right. Yeah. Now I remember.
A Corgi pops out with his owner, Corgi, whatever it is. And then I'm not kidding, John. It looks back at me and then started to follow me, like kept looking back at me. And every step I took was trying to get off his owner's leash and kept trying to get to me. And I texted John and I said, yo, this is a sign. Corgi trying to follow me. It's going to be a good podcast today. And guess what? It is a good podcast because Corgis rock.
I think it's been a good podcast. In the Corgi we trust, baby. I would put my life savings in the hand of that Corgi that is knocking basketballs into laundry baskets or whatever that ball is with his little boop the snoot. So thank you, Corgi. So far, 2 for 2. Let's go 3 for 3, Corgi. I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this. If the Mets, if the Mets, I'm getting a corgi, and it's going to be named after someone on. It could be named Grimace. I don't know, but
You've hinted it before that you would name a dog Grimace, so that would be the perfect combo. And speaking of animals, a new animal has entered the chat because before the Dodgers lost this game today, a snake appeared in their dugout and they freaked out.
and I don't blame them. So I guess you could say the Dodgers might be a little snake bitten.
Okay.
I almost broke the desk.
No, don't break the desk, man. That would be bad. But my question for you, John, could a snake and a black cat have similarities?
Guess we're about to find out, right?
Will we point back to the snake? Will the snake enter? I do feel like because the snake was in the Dodgers dugout, Mets fans like didn't attach to it like they would attach. Like we've attached to every single other thing that's popped up this year, but I feel like the snake didn't get much play. And I'm here to say we should embrace the snake. And I texted it to somebody. I won't out them because I don't know if they want this to be public, but they said after what the Dodgers did to the Padres and the way they acted, they are a bunch of snakes. So it was fitting that that snake was in there.
I didn't know that LA had snakes like that. I mean, I know it's a desert thing, but I wasn't aware of Tinseltown, Hollywood. You'd think that, I mean,
well, you know where Dodger Stadium is.
I was like 200 feet from there, and there's snakes roaming around. That's not
Dodger
safe.
Stadium's not in the middle of downtown Los Angeles.
No, I know.
It's not by the Walk of Fame.
It's in a hole. I get it. It's in a hole.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we covered a lot, and we didn't do it in too much time. We did 30 minutes yesterday. Today we did 35. It feels like a good day. And I appreciate, we got some tweets yesterday of people like saying like, hey, you know what? I needed that podcast after that loss. Like that's the kind of thing I needed to wake up and hear other people kind of like telling me what I needed to hear. Look, this podcast is always going to be a place where you can go and you don't have to, the negative thoughts and the negative reactions, you could go everywhere else for that. We're going to be here to kind of tell you, Glass Half Full podcast, we're always going to be here to tell you, hey, this is what's on the other side of that. This is the things that can go right. And we're not saying things we don't believe. We're just telling you what can go right because there's always another option. There's always another road. So Mets are heading back to New York City for game 3. I couldn't be more excited. I can't wait to see you guys at the ballpark being as loud as you possibly can, as Fox has promised. So let's make some good TV. Let's watch some great Mets baseball. Let's see Marquee playoffs do some stuff at home. Let's go, Mets. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Vito of Khaleesi. John is at JMB9191. You can follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you right here after game 3. But first, you can catch a Jose Quintana interview that will be airing on Wednesday, the day of the game. That morning, you wake up, you're going to Citi Field. What should you do? Go listen to that Jose Quintana interview we did. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you after game 3.
Keep the faith. Let's go, Mets.